Assistant Registry Officer, Ms. Eleanor Magnifico.
Mrs. Susanna Robin. For FICAC's most outstanding officer for the year 2015, Lillian Most.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me much pleasure to be here. One of the things that did come to my mind also when the Deputy Commissioner asked me to attend, I thought, did we provide this for in the budget or not? Did you have an awards night factored in? But I think it is a very, very important occasion. And I think for an organization like FICAC, it is very critical for you to have your team building efforts, for you to be able to have a recognition, at least annually, of the contributions made by the individual staff. One of the reasons why Rambuku hugged me was because it was someone like him and a couple other people that led to the establishment of FICAC, when FICAC started. Rambuku had joined me from the military when he joined Ministry of Justice. And I think it's quite appropriate he's got that award because he was brought in to kick in a few heads because people weren't doing the right thing. It's people like him and, of course, the Deputy Commissioner. You have Lisa here. These are some of the faces that I recognize when FICAC actually started down in the Prime Minister's office on the ground floor. I still remember quite vividly when we had Jared McCoy, who is a QC from New Zealand but practices in Hong Kong, when the FICAC promulgation was in fact drafted. We have come a very long way, ladies and gentlemen. Today you now have a budget of nearly $9 million. You had only a few $100,000, if that, back only about 5 or 6 years ago. So you have grown exponentially. And the reason why you have grown exponentially is firstly because, of course, the political and the administrative will of the Bainimarama government then, and of course now the Fiji First government, to have an independent corruption commission to ensure that we remove systemic corruption. I don't think any country in the world has completely eradicated corruption, and I'm talking not just about the public sector, but also in the private sector. Of course, our target is to have the lowest, or if not zero, level of corruption within state organizations. That is very, very critical. But I think what is also very critical for you to understand, given it is your awards night tonight, that once you have an independent commission set up such as yours, and you have very wide-ranging powers, and you have powers, of course, that are given to you, that are entrusted to you, because an independent commission does require those sorts of powers. It is very critical. We have had laws that were made back in 2007, 2008. They have been amended. New provisions have been put in place. Fiji has ratified the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Some of you may not know this, but when we ratified UNCAC, as it's called, we volunteered to have ourselves reviewed by other countries. So when we went to the UN, to Austria, in Vienna, which is the capital, we actually said, we want you to come and review us. So we have had countries like USA, Bangladesh, France, Serbia, to name some of the other countries that have come and reviewed us. Normally they have a developed country with a developing country that comes and assesses our performance and our compliance with UNCAC. They have been so impressed with our performance and our openness, because I remember the first comments we got from, I think the rep from USA and a couple of other countries, was that how government had openly admitted that there was corruption and we needed to address that. Because they said that many countries that they go to, the governments try and say, well, we don't have that much corruption, and they try and hide it. But the reason why we admitted that was because we want to address that. So this is why every single department of your organization is very important. The people who carry out the public awareness are very, very critical, because as you know, prevention is much better than cure. So we need to prevent it from happening. Charging people, prosecuting people is also critical because it is a form of deterrence. As I saw in your video clip, some of the major cases that you successfully prosecuted does send out a very strong message. The prosecution of previously other business people sends out a very strong message that nobody is above the law and everybody will be called to account. So every single department of yours plays a very critical role, whether it's public awareness, whether it's your administration, whether it's your Department of Finance. You've had people, for example, in your own finance department that have been prosecuted before also. So it is very critical that your organization remains absolutely squeaky clean. This is why the levels of salary that you receive is much higher than other agencies. It's precisely for that reason. The investigators in FICAC receive a higher level of salary than, say, in the police department. And the reason why we've done that, when we started off with the rationale, was because FICAC also has the ability to prosecute other agencies too. So, as we have seen that every single country, if the enforcement agencies aren't above board, or they're vulnerable or susceptible to being corrupted themselves, the entire system is undermined. So it is very critical that you all remain squeaky clean. It is very critical that administratively that you also remain squeaky clean. This is why when your commissioner and your management team comes and presents their budget, we have so far not rejected any of their requests for budget. And their budgets have been increased over the years, as I've mentioned. We now receive about $8.9 million. So we believe that you need to be correctly funded, you need to be remunerated the right salary, because you play a very pivotal role, ladies and gentlemen. As you know that the complaints department will tell you, and I know initially, because we don't know what happens in your organization from day to day, contrary to what the opposition may claim. But the point is this. Initially, a lot of the complaints that came along was in fact complaints about administrative issues, not necessarily corruption issues. And many ordinary citizens of Fiji, many ordinary Fijians, saw FICAC as a solace, as an avenue through which they could get inefficient systems corrected. They weren't necessarily corruption issues. But of course, there are still corruption issues that do exist. So you play a very important role. You must remember, when somebody mentions, an ordinary citizen mentions the word FICAC, it sends shivers down some people's spine. You must know that you have that power. And when you have that type of power, never ever abuse it. Do not go outside the scope of your mandate. I know some officers, some ordinary citizens have said to me, or that FICAC officer said that they can fix that up for you. And I've said to them, no, they can't. Nor do they have the ability to do so, because that's not their role. So you must be fully aware of what is your role. You must be fully aware, like every other institution, what are your limitations also. And I'm very glad, as the Deputy Commissioner has facilitated, the training, the type of training and the level of training and the exposure that you are getting. Many agencies in Fiji have not got that. You've had expatriates come to Fiji, you've had your officers go overseas too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just highlight to you, if I could leave you with that message, that you do play a very pivotal role, play a very critical role in the modernization of Fiji. Because any modern state must be able to eradicate systemic corruption. And sometimes, of course, it's not easy, because some of the issues of corruption relate very closely to what people call cultural practices, or the way things have been done in the past. We must be able to break that down. So I want to thank all of you for your contribution. You've now become a very, very large organization, probably one of the, the largest organization to have grown so exponentially in such a short period of time. We have, as a government, we are committed, of course, to FICAC. You have, in fact, been constitutionalized. Very few countries in the world have their corruption commission built into their constitution. Very few countries. My challenge to you is to please find out that which country or which countries in the world have a corruption commission built into their constitution. And I dare say there will be not more than 5, probably none. But if one of your legal officers can do that research. Please also be driven. There's a provision in the Constitution that relates to how civil servants must perform, or public officers must perform. And it is therefore critical that you take up some of the constitutional provisions. We must always have merit-based appointments. We must have people who are rewarded because they perform. Accordingly, also, your remuneration should be based on that. It's very critical. It is also very critical that the way that things used to be done previously and how we viewed things must be left behind. We must adopt the new practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your contribution. I'd like to congratulate the individuals, of course, who won the awards. It is obviously quite clear that the people who've been awarded are very, very popular choices, and you yourselves recognize that they have contributed well in their respective fields. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank your Deputy Commissioner. He's been there right from the beginning. He's had a number of challenges. He's also seen FICAC grow from a very small organization. From the early days when there was a lot of publicity around it, a lot of negative publicity was around it, where the issue was politicized, where it was criticized. But now I think the majority of the Fijian people recognize the very pivotal role that FICAC plays. And I think we should all put our hands together for your Deputy Commissioner. Because it does require a particular nous, a particular ability to be able to see an organization grow. And where you've had various challenges, where you've had various departments grow, and of course the staff members do grow. I'd like to also acknowledge his lovely wife who's here, who's also given him support over the years. But thank you once again for your hard work. I did not realize that I had to tell you how much money you're going to get next year, but we look forward to the submissions. And thank you once again. We look forward to you doing better things. As I said, that the idea is that we must focus a lot on prevention. But when issues are brought up before us, it obviously, as you're already doing, must be independently assessed. And people obviously must be prosecuted if they have broken the law. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Congratulations to you on your awards night. And I'm sure that you'll be getting bigger and better awards night. I'd like to thank your two, I was going to say mistresses of ceremony, but I won't say that. Thank you for your two masters of ceremony and for their very entertaining conduct of this evening's performance. Thank you.